Sonic Lab TV.
Hello and welcome to another Sonic Lab. Today we're looking at the Teenage Engineering OP1. Here it is in its very funky case. Everything about it's pretty funky. They've made this rather incredible device that has the allure and sort of design desirability of Apple products, many people are saying. Now it's also got some kind of nod to the Casio VL tone of the, well, I think it must have been the 1970s, 1980s. Obviously this is built entirely differently, much more well constructed, and obviously if Teenage Engineering could sell as many of those, they'd be very happy people. So anyway, what is the OP1? The OP1 is essentially a synthesizer with 8 different synthesis engines, including sampling, and a 4-track tape recorder for use for creating music on the go. Let's take a look at the hardware. The first thing we must mention is the build quality. It really is very well built. This whole outer body is from CNC'd aluminium, very much like the Mac unibodies. There's also very high quality components. For instance, all of the switches that go on to make the keyboard and all these momentary switches have a lifespan of up to 10 million presses. These rotary encoders are also industrial grade. They've also got a push action, which currently is not implemented in the OS, though it will transmit over MIDI. They're used in avionics, so they're kind of military aircraft grade. They can operate from -40 to 85 degrees centigrade, so ridiculously over specified. If I switch this on, we've also got the beautiful AMOLED display, 320 by 160, and it really does look extremely beautiful. If I press, you can see that the responsiveness and the contrast is really quite amazing. The battery gives you up to 16 hours of operation time. Little microphone here. There's also, if we look at the connections, they're very limited. We've just got a power switch, micro USB for connecting to the computer, because this also works as a MIDI controller. You can have MIDI both in and out to the unit. A record input and stereo output on 1/8" jacks. So let's take a look at what the OP1 basically is. Essentially, this is a 6-voice synthesizer that allows you to run several different synthesis engines and sampling engines, including drum multi-sample, and record via a 4-track tape recorder with songs up to 6 minutes. There's a certain amount of flexibility on the tape recorder. You can cut and paste and drop and splice and various other aspects. So let's take a look at a couple of synth engines. This first one is called String. You might have recognised it, and it really displays the way that the colour coding works ever so nicely. The blue knob affects the tension, the green knob affects the level of the early reflection, the white knob the detune, and the red knob the type of early reflection. Another synth engine to look at is something called the cluster. Now this has got something a bit more. What basically this has is up to 4 waves with detune and spread. On this one we've got a little bit of an effect, which is a spring, which is a great, actually quite nice sounding, and blows up really nicely and creates some sort of really kind of juicy sounds. You'll also notice that all of these sounds have an envelope generator. So you've got the engine, the envelope generator, then you've also got the effect generator, which can be one of any of these: delay, grid, phone, punch, spring, and there's also an LFO, which allows you to modulate various parameters. For instance, this one is affecting the envelope type. There's also the possibility to route the LFO via the G sensor, which this has also got a gravity sensor or a position. So here I've got it routed to the level of the reverb, and I can shake it around. So there's quite a lot of routing possibilities and kind of fun that can be had there. There's also a sampler engine. Here's something that I sampled off the FM radio. I can affect the start time, the loop point, the in and the out, and there's also some shift functions which give me the loop direction, the playback direction. All of the synthesizers, they can all be stored in any of these 8 buttons. So if I tweak a sound I like, I can just press and hold, and it saves it into that memory. Same goes for the drums as well. So if I like this kit and I've maybe tweaked a couple of things, press and hold, and that stores the preset into the memory. Speaking of the sampler, pressing this little mic button here brings up the sample window or the input window, I can change the input from the ear function, which is the output of the unit. So if I'm playing on the tape, I can record that into the sampler, or I can set it to be the FM radio, which is a mono FM radio, or the mic, which is built into the unit. I can use that to sample as well. If I want to get into some drums, there's a drum button here, which is the green button, which brings up multi-sample kits. They're up to 23 slots. Right, so the synthesis engine isn't what you'd call deep and expansive, but it's varied enough to get you a reasonable palette of tones, and the effects certainly bring a lot more to the party. You can actually get some quite dirty and organic sounds out of it when you combine the two. Right, I've been asked a bit about filtering and that kind of stuff. For that we'll use this Pulse synth engine, which has a little bit of filtering built into the actual synth engine. But there is also another way of accessing filtering, and that's with an effect type. It's called Punch, and it's like a sort of a low-pass filter that you can blend into the mix. It's not very traditional sounding, but it gives you some sort of filtering, but it is only as an effect. Another cool thing that I should show in the synth engine is the possibility to play in poly mode, mono, legato, and the rather much larger unison mode, which stacks all 6 voices up together. The thing that really does strike me though is just how compelling the interface is. Even with the limitation of the synth engines, you find yourself really just can't help but tweak and fiddle. And it's really a testament to the brilliance of the design that the teenage engineers have put into this thing. So well done to them for that. Obviously, another major part of this is the tape recording, because it's a very integrated part of the whole workflow. So let's take a look at that feature now. Got a couple of tracks that I'm playing. I've got rhythm track and a bit of bass. Now while I'm here, I'll show you some of the mixer features. You can see I've got a 3rd track here, but I'm going to save that till a little bit later. I've also got an EQ section, which allows me to sort of quite sculpting EQ, lovely interface. I've also got this kind of compressor interface, which I can drive and start to sort of beef up in a mastering style. Anyway, I'm going to go back to here, and what I want to do is play this synth part, which I've put in. So, right, so go back to tape, I'm going to put that on track 2, and we're going to go 3, 4. If I don't like that, I can press the lift button and just get rid of it. So it's gone. Or if I like, once I've lifted it, I can paste it back in. So I could actually put it back in ad infinitum, so sort of copying it. So you might be wondering how I got those drums in time, because I'm not that good a player to get those beats to actually be so tight. And I'll show you how I do that. Now, I'll stop this. I'm going to go to my drum page, and what I've got is a little pattern sequencer that I've created this pattern with a new kit. I can affect the swing, I can affect the number of beats there are in the pattern. Now, if I go back to my drum page, I can trigger that sample. Effectively, it's like triggering a sample. So now, I play my loop. I could drop this in over the top if I wanted. The keyboard then allows me to change the pitch. So again, you know, not the most fully featured non-linear DAW recording kind of affair, but a fairly good compromise considering it's in such a tiny little box. Another couple of nifty features, we've also got, if I press this button here, I've got the ability to record effectively the stereo output of this device on 2 sides of vinyl, 6 minutes per side. So if I go to my tape, I hit record here, go to my tape, mess about with this business. Right, I'm done. So stop my recording, and there I have it recorded into the system. This seems like a good time to maybe have a look at the USB connectivity. USB mode is accessed by pressing Shift and the COM button, and that brings up this screen here. So here's the OP1 disk. If I take a look, we can see that it's about 400 megabytes. It's folded up like this. So if I take the album here, here's the track I just recorded. Sounds pretty good actually, nice and fulsome. I've also got folders for drum samples. If I show you how that works, you can see that there's individual hits within the file, so you just basically define regions in that. And also I've got my tape track. So what these represent is the entire 6 minutes of tape. So they're all 6 minutes long, and you can see I've got various different sketches and points in the tape that I've recorded on. Obviously really easy just to transfer these into your DAW and then use them as a basis of a composition. Going into MIDI mode, I'm now playing the rather lovely Syn plant via the keyboard on the OP1. And now if I go to my master keyboard and send the MIDI to the OP1, you can hear that I'm playing drum sounds and there's velocity sensitivity. A question was asked, will it work with the Apple Camera Connection Kit and the iPad? And the answer to that is yes, it will, although obviously you've only got fixed velocity on the notes. Does it work the other way? Well, I'll launch Yamaha's drum pad and ARP program here, and if I just drop an octave or so, you can see that it absolutely does, which is brilliant, because now I could record those into here. The only problem is I can't sync there's no kind of tempo sync over USB or MIDI between the devices, or certainly the OP1 cannot send or receive any kind of clock. It would have been nice perhaps to see an audio interface built into the USB capabilities, but I guess you can't have everything. That said, this operating system has got an enormous amount of features and functions. I've tried to cover most things, but clearly I haven't been able to cover everything because there is actually a lot of depth to it, and Teenage Engineering have put a considerable amount of work, and it shows. The OS and the display is just simply beautiful. It makes you want to use it. Whether or not it's something you need in your life to make better music, that's a difficult call. At €799, it's quite an expensive item. One could say it's even luxury. Do you need it? I don't know. Do you want it? Hell yeah, I'd love one.